Hello, hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV screen to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. Okay, how are we all today? I'm fine, and I hope that you're all fine out there. All of you gods of English, sitting down, watching telly in Hungarian TV land. Okay, so, who remembers what we were talking about yesterday? You all do, I know that. I was just kidding. Okay, so, yesterday we started by looking at obligation and the language we use when we're talking about obligation, requirements and necessity. We normally use two forms in English for strong requirement: have to and must. Must is simpler. We don't have to conjugate anything. It's the same form for all subjects. But even if it's simpler to use, it's more dangerous. We can easily offend people and cause problems. So, I say, follow the golden rule. Use must with ourselves and use the other English form for strong requirement, have to, when we're talking about other people. Okay, so have to is the other form we use in English when we're talking about strong obligation. With have to, we have to conjugate, but that's no big deal. We know we have to be careful with the third person singular form of the verb to have, and so, when we use have to, we change to has to when we're talking about the third person singular. Not so difficult, is it? No. In fact, for us, gods of English, it's easy. We know that we use have to for I, you, we, you and they. And we know that we use has to for he, she and it. Simple. Great, fab, okay, OJ, PJs, PG tips, the GNU. Okay, so what else do we have to remember? Well, we have to remember that when we add not to the two forms for strong obligation, we get two very different results. When we add not to must, we get must not or mustn't. We always prefer the short version. Now, when we look at mustn't, we can see that it's the logical opposite of must. I must do this means that there is a strong obligation to do this. If I don't do it, there will be trouble. With mustn't, we have the same idea, just in the opposite direction. If I mustn't do this, then there is a strong obligation not to do this. If I do this, there will be trouble. Okay? All clear? Yes, of course. Now, the strange change comes when we add not to have to. For a start, we have to use the verb to do. We can't just throw not in and hope for the best. No. No, we use the verb to do to make sentences with have to when we add not. We use the form of do plus not plus have to. This means that we get I do not have to, and we all know that we prefer the short version. So we get I don't have to. So, as we know we have to conjugate with have to, we change the rest of the forms as we need to. We use don't have to for I, you, we, you and they. And we use doesn't have to for he, she and it. Simple. Okay, the form is simple enough, but the meaning changes when we go from have to don't, doesn't have to. The meaning of have to is clear. There is strong obligation. You have to do this. There will be trouble if you don't. When we change to don't, doesn't have to, all obligation is removed. It just vanishes. It disappears. So, when we add not to the idea of have to, we get a strange result. Now there is no obligation. If someone says to you that you don't have to do something, then they're telling you that the decision is yours. You can do it if you want, or you can not do it. It's entirely up to you. Okay, this isn't difficult to remember, but we need to pay attention so that people understand what we want them to do and what we don't want them to do. Another thing we have to be careful of is the fact that must only exists in the present. If we want to talk about a strong obligation in the past, we have to rely on have to. Only this time, because we're talking about the past, we have to conjugate the verb to have so that it shows the past. Have to becomes had to. Okay, but this is also very simple. When we use had to, we know that we don't have to change anything. We use the same form for every subject. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, had to. Simple. Okay, enough of strong obligation. We have to look at something else. Now, yesterday, we didn't have enough time to look at all of the important bits of comparative adjectives, did we? No. So, let's run through them now. Now, we all remember what a syllable is, don't we? Of course we do. A syllable is a sound in a word. Vegetable, when pronounced correctly, has got 3 syllables. Vegetable. We don't say vegetable. The correct pronunciation of the word is vegetable, like this. Vegetable. Okay, so we know what a vegetable is, and we know what a syllable is. And we also remember that for adjectives with 1 syllable, we make the comparative form by adding er to the end of the word. Now, obviously, if the word ends in an e, we don't add er, we only add r. So, nice doesn't become nicer, but merely nicer. Great. Now, if the word ends in a vowel plus consonant, you remember vowels and consonants, don't you? Are you sure? Well, just in case your memory is a little bit rusty, vowels are A, E, I, O, and U, and consonants are all the other letters in the alphabet. Okay, so if the adjective ends in vowel plus consonant, we double the last letter before adding er. Simple. Tall becomes taller. No doubling of the last letter there, but hot becomes hotter. The T is doubled. Okay, and what about if the word ends in a Y? Then what happens? Well, if the adjective ends in Y, we replace the Y with IER. Essentially, we change Y to I and then add ER. Simple. Okay, so what about an example? Okay, how about heavy or easy or early? Heavy becomes heavier, easy becomes easier, and early becomes earlier. Great! Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so last lesson we didn't have time to look at the irregular adjectives. So let's have a quick peek at them now. So, the irregular adjectives are, well, irregular. They're not logical, so we can throw logic out of the window for a start. Let's look at the adjectives good and bad. Angels are good. Devils are bad. Fine. We know the meaning of the two adjectives. Chocolate biscuits are good. Syphilis is bad. So, what happens when we want to make comparative adjectives with good and bad? Well, we just have to remember that the comparative version of good is better, and the comparative version of bad is worse. That's all there is to it. We have to learn and remember that chocolate biscuits are good and triple chocolate chip caramel biscuits are better. Syphilis is bad, but AIDS is worse. Okay. Now we also have to remember that the comparative form for the adjective well is also better. Yesterday, I felt awful. Today, I'm feeling better, for example. Good. Now, moving on. What about the longer adjectives? Do you remember what we do with longer adjectives to make comparative forms? I'm sure you do, but let's run through it one more time, just to be on the safe side. With longer adjectives, with adjectives with 2 or 3 or 4 syllables, then we don't change the adjective, but we put the word more in front of the adjective. This way, we don't say that someone is intelligenter than another person. We say that someone is more intelligent than another person. We don't say that Michael Dudikoff is dangerouser than Jean-Claude Van Damme. We say that Michael Dudikoff is more dangerous than Jean-Claude Van Damme. And that's all the time we've got for today's lesson. Thanks for watching. And don't forget that you can catch up with all our lessons at www.m5tv.hu. Thanks for watching me, Gav Duncan, on M5's Let's Speak English. I'll see you next time. See you later. Bye.